President Cyril Ramaphosa has only a few hours left to respond to the submissions made by some National Assembly members. He is the first president to face a preliminary assessment by the Section 89 independent panel in terms of National Assembly Rule 129. The new rule determines the various processes to be followed to remove a president from office. It was developed in 2018 following a successful Constitutional Court challenge by the EFF versus the former National Assembly Speaker, Baleka Mbete, in December of 2017. Now let's get analysis on this and other political stories by political analyst Professor Bheki Mngomezulu. Prof, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Now, of course, President Cyril Ramaphosa is facing a lot of criticism from various quarters. I'd like us to just, for a minute, just talk about just some of the utterances that were made by former President Jacob Zuma. I don't know how much of the lecture that he was delivering, the Owa Tambo Memorial Lecture he was delivering in Umlazi, you've heard. But I want to mainly focus on some of the things that he said about the leadership of the ANC, that things have changed dramatically for the party since the 2017 conference, leading up to, of course, the 2022 elective conference of the party. Some of the things that he said was that in the 2017 conference, it was essentially a bought conference. He was saying that it was the first time in the ANC a president bought his position and essentially abused the democratic process. Of course, he says the allegations of Cyril Ramaphosa surfaced in 2017, where he used his position and his wealth to try and buy votes to see him ascend into the presidency. A tune of 1 billion rand was thrown around. What can we make of these utterances, particularly as the president now is supposed to make his submissions later today and leading up to the conference in December?
No, thank you very much, my sister, for having me. Yeah, there is something very concerning here. And seemingly, this is going to stay with us for a very long time. Because you recall that the CR17 fund is one of the controversial issues that has not been resolved to date. And for as long as that report remains sealed, then there will be speculations, accusations, and counter-accusations. The question is, if indeed there was nothing untoward with the CR17 campaign, why did the courts decide that that information should not be made public? Because for me, what would have helped if, for example, they want to treat all the contenders equally, the judgment should have said not just the CR17 funding should be made public, but all the other 6 contenders in the 2017 general election of the ANC were supposed to be made public. But that didn't happen, of course. So that means, therefore, that those who are having suspicions as to how the president emerged victorious will always refer to that as an example to show that things did not go well. And then the second related point is that for as long as you keep on saying that the president won that election convincingly, you are basically missing the point. I'm not referring to you as a person, but I'm saying that anyone who would say that the president canvassed properly and then won the election fairly and squarely, the question will be, how come that he only got that position with only 179 votes? And also, what do you make of the so-called unity vote that came from Mpumalanga? So there will always be those questions. So I think this doesn't help the president's case in fact, because one would have expected that by now we wouldn't be talking about that, given that we are going to the 2022 election of the ANC. It will be behind us. But the reason why it is still with us is because it was not handled properly.
And in fact, the former president just, I don't want to beleaguer the point, but he also started, preempting some of the things that we will be seeing, within this elective conference coming up next month, saying things like, resolutions that were, undertaken during the 2017 conference were never implemented, doubting very much that that will be the case. Also saying again, that because the 2017, as you've alluded to, CR17 campaign, that report has not been, released, he's concerned that going into the 2022 conference, money will still be doing the rounds. Again, also speaking about the quality and, of course, of that particular outcome.
No, I think he has a point. Of course, I cannot say it's 100% right, but he does have a point for the same reason that I've put first, that for as long as you don't have conclusion into this matter, there will always be speculation, accusations, and counter-accusations. But then with regards to resolutions, it's not a secret that the majority of the resolutions that were taken in 2017 have not been implemented for one reason or the other. Of course, people will cite COVID-19 and then they will cite the floods and KZN as an excuse. But the reality of the matter is the organization has failed to implement most of those resolutions. The only resolution that has been taken seriously, although of course not correctly, is the step-aside resolution. Because that is where the focus seems to be. And a number of people who have been potential candidates in December have fallen by the wayside as a result of the implementation of that resolution. But even that resolution, in fact, has caused many problems for the ANC to the extent that there are even more divisions now than there were in 2017. Because there is a perception that the resolution is not being implemented evenly, and some would go to an extent of saying that it is being used to punish one faction and, of course, putting the other faction at an advantage position. So whether that is factual or not, that's another issue. The reality of the matter is, in politics, perceptions weigh more than facts. If you stick to facts, you might arrive at a different conclusion, but the reality is that you win elections based on speculation, you lose elections based on speculation. That is why smear campaigns become rampant during the elections, because people know that they in fact are more effective than when you stick to facts and say, these are the facts, here is evidence. That is the reality of facing.
Prof, let's now talk about the Palapala matter. Of course, there's a lot of anticipation to see if President Cyril Ramaphosa will indeed meet his deadline, to make his submissions by close of business today, to the three-member panel that is investigating the Palapala scandal. Of course, he's faced a number of criticism, as I said earlier, particularly by ANC, NEC members, some of them who are running for the president, position come the elective conference in December. They've spoken to the SABC about their ambitions, but of course pointing out that President Cyril Ramaphosa needs to take the ANC NEC into his confidence and talk to them about what is essentially happened, as a result of this Palapala matter. And of course, this morning, former President Kgalema Motlanthe is being quoted in the Sunday Times saying that a president should be unimpeachable, silence gives rise to speculation, and the ANC must take, in fact, the president must take the ANC into his confidence, reiterating essentially what some of those ANC NEC members are saying. And of course, we saw not a couple of weeks ago, 3 former presidents speaking out about this very matter. What are we likely to expect from the president's submission?
My sister, honestly speaking, I'm pessimistic about this whole matter because the Palapala issue happened in 2020. We are now at the end of 2022. The question is, how come that those who are implicated in that issue did not follow the law as it should be the case? And most importantly for me is that the president has a legal background, so he should understand better than you and I, who are not lawyers. But that didn't happen. Of course, the president would say, when this incident happened, he was not in the country, he was not the suburb, which is factually correct. But the reality of the matter is he became aware of it. And then the question is, what did he do when he became aware? Did he follow the law to the letter? Was the case reported to the police? Was a docket opened? Was an investigation carried out? Were these culprits apprehended and brought before the law? And then were they found guilty? And then what happened thereafter? So these are some of the questions that are always lingering. So when the ANC membership and the ANC leadership want the president to take them into confidence and say that this is what I know about this issue, it's not just for them to satisfy themselves, but it's also to protect the president. Because once they have the facts from the president himself, they will then be in a position to try and diffuse the situation out there, because there are people who are saying that the president is not being honest. And the reason why they are saying so is because there is no alternative narrative. So they believe in what they believe in, that the president may have not followed the law as should be the case. And in the absence of the facts, they are therefore making speculations. Going back to the point I made earlier on, that speculations seem to weigh more than facts. In this case, the president, in fact, the onus is on him to take his party into confidence and take the leadership of the organization into confidence and say, my colleagues, my comrades, this is what I know about this issue. Then they will come in his defense whenever this issue arises in the general public, because it's not just the impeachment process invoking Section 89 of the Constitution, but it's also the general public out there. And it's not just members of the ANC, because it's not only members of the ANC who vote for the ANC or who have been voting for the ANC since 1994. A number of people who are not members of any political party have been responsible for bringing the ANC back into power. And they were also responsible for not giving the ANC a nod in 2021 in a number of municipalities. So therefore, it's important for the president to come out clean on this matter, if not in the legal fraternity, but at least amongst his own members, the truth must be told.
Professor Mngomezulu, thank you so much for your time. Of course, that is Professor Bheki Mngomezulu, just giving us analysis on some of the key political stories that we are following for you this afternoon.